Reef saved me once, but in the war of life, he couldn't save himself. He never interfered in battles that weren't his, and maybe if he had, things would have been different. Maybe he would still be alive today. That thought haunted me for years, and in many ways, it shaped how I lived. I spent my whole life chasing criminals, trying to put bad people behind bars, thinking that justice would somehow make up for the pain I carried. Everyone thought they understood why Pauley Perrette, the beloved actress known to millions, suddenly stepped away from acting at the height of her fame. The official story was simple and believable: she wanted a quieter life. Fans accepted it, because it sounded reasonable. But what really happened was far more complicated. Behind the scenes, Pauley had endured things no one could have imagined. Leaked documents later revealed that there had been assault allegations, serious safety violations, and even a co-star she feared so deeply that she needed therapy just to cope with being on set. CBS thought they had solved it all with a private settlement, but they were wrong. The truth never really disappears, and now, at the age of 56, Pauley Perrette has decided to finally speak about what really happened in those final years on set and why she walked away from the career that made her famous. Her story begins in New Orleans, where she was born on March 27, 1969. Her childhood was never steady or simple. Her father worked in the railroad industry, which meant her family was constantly moving from one state to another. By the time she was a teenager, she had already lived in 14 different places. She never stayed anywhere long enough to feel like she truly belonged. But instead of breaking her, this constant uprooting shaped her personality. She learned how to adjust quickly, how to blend in, and most importantly, how to read people. These were skills that would help her survive later in life, especially when she found herself in the unpredictable world of Hollywood. Though Louisiana was her birthplace, she always felt that Alabama was her true home. Growing up across the South gave her a strong sense of resilience, and it also gave her the ability to adapt to almost any environment. Even as a child, Pauley was not like everyone else. She wasn't interested in just fairy tales, cartoons, or typical childhood dreams. While many kids around her wanted to be astronauts, athletes, or musicians, Pauley's dreams were unique. She wanted to fight crime. She was fascinated by real-life criminals, mysteries, and the science used to catch them. At the same time, she had a creative spirit. She dreamed of being in a rock band, working with animals, or even becoming an FBI agent. She wasn't just saying it, she meant it. After finishing high school, she pursued those interests seriously. She studied criminal justice, sociology, psychology, and criminology, earning multiple degrees. Her curiosity about why people hurt others without remorse pushed her to keep learning. She even moved to New York to work on a master's degree at the John Jay College of Criminal Justice. But while she was studying hard, life delivered her a painful lesson. In the 1980s, while she was living in Atlanta, she was violently mugged. The details of the attack were never widely shared, but its impact was permanent. Instead of letting the trauma destroy her, she used it as motivation. She turned the pain into fuel, dedicating herself even more to understanding crime and helping others. She became a strong voice for victims, using her own experience to connect with people who had suffered. Her college years were never ordinary. She had to fight to survive. In Georgia, she worked hard to keep her grades up, but when she moved to New York, things became even tougher. To support herself, she bartended in underground clubs, skated through the city handing out flyers, and even worked as a cook on dinner cruise boats. She rocked a mohawk and combat boots, blending right into New York's eccentric nightlife. At times, she barely had enough money to eat, but she never gave up. She later said that all of those experiences gave her an edge in life. She wasn't just reading about human behavior in books, she was living it in the rawest way possible. Another way she rebelled against the world she grew up in was through tattoos. Raised in a strict church where television and movies were frowned upon, she looked like the perfect Southern girl from the outside: blonde, polite, and well-behaved. But inside, she wanted to express her individuality. At just 15 years old, she got her first tattoo, shocking the conservative community she grew up in. Over the years, she collected around 20 tattoos, each one telling a part of her story. Her body became a living canvas, a declaration that she was not going to follow anyone else's rules. When she finally arrived in Los Angeles in the 1990s, she had just $71 in her pocket. Life wasn't glamorous. She slept on friends' floors, walked dogs for $5 a day, and took any job she could find to survive. It was during those dog-walking days that she rescued a pit bull off the street and named her Cease. That dog became one of the most important parts of her life. Years later, when she clashed with a co-star about his aggressive dog, her bond with Cease made the issue even more personal. Her love for animals began during those difficult years and grew into a lifelong passion. She went on to support countless animal rescue organizations, turning her pain into purpose. Her first step into acting didn't come through glamorous auditions. It came by accident. She overheard someone talking about a casting call while sitting in a coffee shop. Curious, she went to the audition and ended up landing a small role on The Drew Carey Show. From there, she began to slowly build her resume with small roles on shows like Frasier and Murder One. In the year 2000, she played a radio DJ in the movie Almost Famous, working alongside big names like Philip Seymour Hoffman. While her parts were small, they helped her gain confidence and showed she had talent. Then came 2003, the year that changed everything. Pauley walked into an audition for a new show called NCIS. Dressed in simple clothes, baggy jeans, sneakers, and a plain shirt, she looked nothing like the gothic forensic scientist she was about to play. But the show's creator, Don Bellisario, immediately said, "That's her." Without even trying, she embodied the spirit of Abby Sciuto, the quirky, caffeinated, brilliant forensic scientist who would become one of television's most beloved characters. Fans instantly connected with Abby. She wasn't just another TV character, she was the heart of the team. Her role grew quickly because fans couldn't get enough of her. By the time she left in 2018, she had appeared in every single episode since the beginning, something no other actor on the show had accomplished. Her popularity was so strong that in 2011, she was named the most popular actress in TV crime dramas, beating out stars from CSI and Law and Order. But her success wasn't just about popularity. Pauley took Abby's job seriously. She worked with real forensic experts, studying DNA analysis, ballistics, and lab protocols so that everything she did on screen felt authentic. Her commitment made Abby feel real, like someone who could actually walk into a crime lab and do the job. The show became a massive hit. By its 7th season, NCIS was pulling in more than 20 million viewers, even beating out American Idol in ratings. Abby's quirky red drink, Caf POW, became iconic. Fans bought cups at 7-Eleven, not realizing that Pauley herself never drank the sugary beverage. Her cups were always filled with cranberry juice. Even the stuffed toy Bert the farting hippo became a fan favorite, showing how even the smallest touches on the show turned into legends. Off-screen, Pauley's life was filled with both passion and pain. She supported veterans through programs that paired service dogs with those suffering from PTSD, raising money and awareness for a cause close to her heart. She secretly created a webcomic called Lab Babel, donating all the ad revenue to animal shelters. She poured herself into helping others, even as she struggled behind the scenes. And then came 2016, the incident that would change everything. Mark Harmon, her co-star, brought his rescue dog to set like he had before. But one day, the dog attacked a crew member, leaving them with 15 stitches. The attack shut down production and left people shaken. Pauley, who loved animals but also understood their unpredictability, demanded that the dog not return. But when CBS allowed the dog back on set, she felt betrayed. The trust was broken. From then on, her contract required that she and Harmon never film together. For fans, it became noticeable. Suddenly, the two characters were never in the same scene. That tension grew, and it eventually played a role in Pauley's decision to walk away. To the public, it looked like a simple retirement. But inside, she was dealing with fear, frustration, and trauma that had built up for years. Pauley Perrette's story is not just about fame or success. It is about survival. From a childhood of constant uprooting, to violent trauma in her youth, to scraping by in New York and Los Angeles, she fought for everything she had. Her time on NCIS made her a household name, but it also exposed her to the darker side of Hollywood, the politics, the power struggles, and the personal battles that few ever see. Even now, years later, her truth continues to emerge. Her journey proves that sometimes, the people who make us laugh and comfort us on screen are carrying the heaviest burdens off screen. Pauley Perrette gave the world Abby Sciuto, a character filled with intelligence, humor, and heart. And behind Abby was a woman who had lived through chaos, fought through fear, and found her strength in helping others. She may have left Hollywood, but her story is far from over. The costs of production started rising, and the whole system of managing the show became harder with time. By the time her final episode aired, which was watched by nearly 15 million people, things had already broken down so badly that she and her co-star didn't even film in the same building. The editors had to work extra hard, stitching scenes together in a way that gave viewers the illusion that there was still a connection between them when, in truth, there was none left. Then came the turning point. On June 2019, at exactly 6 o'clock in the morning, Pauley decided she had had enough of silence. She went public with her truth through a single tweet that sent shockwaves across the internet. Her words were not softened or filtered through a publicist. They were raw, direct, and frighteningly honest. She wrote that she was terrified of Mark Harmon, and that she still suffered nightmares of him attacking her. She made it very clear that she would never return to NCIS under any condition. The reaction online was immediate and explosive. Fans couldn't believe what they were reading. Entertainment websites and news outlets crashed as millions tried to get more information and understand the truth behind her words. For years, Harmon had been seen as a calm father figure, a steady television star who projected control and kindness. Suddenly, that carefully polished image cracked. People began to see him in a new and unsettling light. He chose not to respond at all, but his silence, instead of protecting him, made many believe that Pauley's words carried even more weight. What most people didn't know then was that Pauley hadn't just tweeted her fears. She had already taken formal steps. Before leaving the show, she had filed 3 separate safety complaints with the HR department. These were not just simple disagreements over contracts or stories of salary issues. CBS later confirmed that she had raised official safety concerns over a year before her departure. In 2018, she had even tweeted that she had suffered multiple physical assaults and hinted that she was forced to stay quiet while lies were spread about her exit. She explained that she no longer felt safe at work and that the experience had left her needing therapy. Filing 3 different HR reports showed clearly that she had tried to handle the situation through the proper system, but nothing meaningful had been done. This also suggested that CBS had multiple opportunities to protect her but didn't take strong action. For Pauley, leaving the show was not just a career decision, it was a matter of survival. The most dramatic moment came when reports revealed that Pauley had actually hired a private investigator. This detail proved that she wasn't just angry or venting her emotions. She was actively gathering evidence to protect herself. The investigator documented safety violations on the NCIS set, and Pauley used this evidence as leverage against CBS. Eventually, the network entered into a private settlement with her. Multiple reliable sources later revealed that she was paid somewhere between $5 and $9 million. This confirmed that her case wasn't about bad scripts, pay disputes, or creative differences. It was entirely about safety, accountability, and the failure of a powerful system to protect its employees. The settlement also came with a strict non-disclosure agreement designed to keep everything hidden. Around the same time, CBS was already under fire for other scandals. They had just paid actress Eliza Dushku $9.5 million for harassment on a different show. That Pauley received a similar amount strongly suggested that her case was serious enough to cause major damage to CBS's reputation and to Mark Harmon's career if it ever became public. 2 years later, in 2020, Pauley tried to return to television with a new sitcom called Broke. At first, the response seemed hopeful. On its premiere on April 2nd, more than 7 million people tuned in. But the early success didn't last. Ratings began to fall sharply week after week. By the end of its short 13-episode season, only 3.6 million people were still watching. In the most important age group for television advertising, the 18 to 49 demographic, the show fell to a rating of just 0.4, which is far below what a network needs to keep a program alive. Critics were unkind as well, calling the show dull and without direction. CBS had hoped the sitcom would mark a strong return for her, but instead, it collapsed quietly and left her career standing on uncertain ground. 2 months after Broke was cancelled, Pauley spoke once again to her fans through Twitter. On July 7, 2020, she posted a brightly colored message saying, "I'm free, surrounded by rainbow hues." But this was more than just a happy note. It was her official retirement from acting. She explained that she now answered only to God, animals, and plants, and that her rescue dogs were her only true judges. Her words made it clear that she had no interest in ever coming back to Hollywood. She had already given over 25 years to her acting career, including appearing in more than 350 episodes of NCIS alone, but now she was done. There would be no comeback tours, no farewell interviews, no nostalgic appearances. She closed the door in a single sentence. What shocked many people was what came after. Even though she had retired, she kept receiving offers for roles. Major shows like The Good Doctor and Law and Order, SVU wanted her for guest appearances. These roles usually pay a minimum of $100,000 to $300,000 each, and for someone with her experience and fame, they were easy opportunities. But she said no to all of them. It wasn't about money anymore. It was about peace of mind. She even turned down SVU, a show she once supported. By refusing these offers, she proved she was serious. She wasn't chasing fame, she was protecting her well-being. Then came another life-changing moment. On the morning of September 2, 2021, Pauley woke up and instantly knew something was terribly wrong. The entire right side of her body felt numb. At first, she thought maybe she had just slept in an odd position. But as the minutes passed, the numbness stayed. When she touched her face with her fingers, it felt as though someone else's hand was doing it. Even the weight of her laptop sitting on her lap didn't register to her skin. Panic quickly set in, and she called her doctor, who told her not to wait and to get to the emergency room immediately. Within minutes, she was surrounded by doctors who confirmed her worst fear. At just 53 years old, she was having a massive ischemic stroke. For 36 terrifying hours, she lost her voice completely. She couldn't speak at all. When her words finally returned, they weren't dramatic or poetic. Instead, she joked lightly, saying, "Dude, seriously?" But the reality was terrifying. Her doctors admitted they hadn't expected her to survive beyond 5 p.m. that day. The stroke had been that severe. Recovery was long and exhausting. She had to go through months of speech and motor therapy. But she survived. And she believed one reason she lived was Rosie. Rosie wasn't a nurse or doctor. She was Pauley's rescue dog. During the stroke, Rosie kept pawing at her, trying to wake her and alert her that something was wrong. That little act gave her just enough time to call for help. In a stroke, every minute matters. Rosie bought her those minutes, and in doing so, she saved her life. For Pauley, who had always loved rescuing animals, this was a powerful reminder that love works both ways. The dog she saved ended up saving her. From then on, her devotion to animal rescue only grew stronger. After the stroke, her sense of spirituality deepened. She began seeking peace away from the noise of Hollywood. Twice a year, she started visiting a Benedictine monastery in Big Sur. The monks there didn't try to convert her. Instead, they taught her the beauty of silence, how to breathe, and how to pray in a way that felt honest. She created a simple prayer she repeated every day: "Thank you for everything and forgive me for everything." In those quiet moments, she believed she could hear gentle guidance, not in dramatic voices, but in soft whispers like "trust or not now." This was nothing like the faith she had grown up with, where she wasn't sure how to pray. Now, her conversations with God felt natural, almost like checking in with a trusted friend. These retreats didn't just help her recover from the stroke, they also helped her process years of trauma, including a violent attack in 2015 that had left her deeply shaken. Even while dealing with personal struggles, Pauley kept finding ways to give. She became the executive producer of a documentary called Studio One Forever, which explored the history of Studio One, the first gay disco in America that operated in West Hollywood from 1974 to 1994. For her, it wasn't just a nightclub. It was a sanctuary where members of the LGBTQ community could feel safe, joyful, and free during a time when the AIDS crisis made life terrifying. The documentary featured stories from well-known figures like Bruce Vilanch and Chita Rivera. For Pauley, the project wasn't about fame. It was about giving voice to a community and preserving an important piece of history. The film premiered at the 2023 Outfest LA Film Festival and became a moving celebration of resilience and identity. Some of her most meaningful actions, however, never made it into headlines. In 2015, Pauley quietly helped a young cancer patient named Cristina Flores, a devoted NCIS fan who dreamed of meeting Abby, her favorite character. Thanks to the Make-A-Wish Foundation, that meeting happened. They spent time together and even got matching temporary tattoos. Sadly, Cristina passed away weeks later. Without telling anyone, Pauley paid for Cristina's funeral and the travel costs for her family. The gesture was private and deeply personal. The only reason anyone found out was because Cristina's aunt tweeted about it, but even that message was later deleted. Pauley never commented. She didn't need recognition. She simply wanted to honor a brave young girl whose strength had touched her heart. Hollywood kept reaching out, but Pauley stayed true to her values. Back in 2007, Playboy magazine had offered her $750,000 to pose. She turned it down. In 2013, they came back with an offer close to $1 million. Again, she refused. At that time, NCIS was one of the most popular shows on television, with nearly 19 million weekly viewers. Playboy assumed she would say yes, but she wanted no part of anything that reduced women to objects. She knew young fans admired her, and she wanted to set a different kind of example. In a 2014 interview with TV Guide, she said the money didn't tempt her at all. She believed real strength could be shown in other ways, and she stood by that belief even when it meant losing out on fortune. Perhaps the biggest surprise of all came in 2023 when her will was revealed during a probate filing in Los Angeles. Her estate was valued at more than $22 million, but not a single dollar was left to her family or friends. Instead, she left everything to causes she had always cared about. 60% of her wealth went to no-kill animal shelters, and 40% went to the Innocence Project, which works to free wrongfully convicted people. Her lawyer confirmed that this was exactly how she wanted it. She didn't want inheritance battles. She wanted her money to go to the things she loved most. She even included one final request: her ashes would be divided in two. Half would be scattered near a dog park, and the other half at the rescue center where she had found her very first dog. Her choices painted a clear picture. Pauley was never driven by fame, money, or power. She walked away from Hollywood when it became toxic, refused millions when it went against her beliefs, and left her fortune not to people but to causes she believed in. Her life was filled with pain, resilience, faith, and compassion, but at its core, it was guided by a search for peace.